Welcome back to Global TV Talk Show. As you could see, we're in the space station looking down on electrified California, and the rest of the world is already up. And this is from my gallery of amazing pictures that I'll be using on various days and various programs, just so nobody ever gets bored looking at my logo. We're going to vary the scenes and hopefully be stimulating. As you can see, that's Silicon Valley where all the wires are connecting. And then Southern California is just below that. And you can see that yellow light, but it seems like nobody's connected there. I'm going to have to get a new photo, I think. I'm going to move over here. So welcome, Rigoberto in Mexico City. Please introduce yourself more formally than I just did.
Hi, Ed. Thank you very much for the invite. I am Rigoberto Vasquez, and I have about 20 years of experience working for the mobility industry, and I'm very happy to be here with you guys. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you. And name the company you're with now.
I'm currently working for myself, Ed. I didn't tell you anything before, but I am starting a new career as a destination service consultant, and I will let you know later more details.
Isn't that interesting? Well, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have everybody coming in. Pardon me. Just want to make sure everybody's in. Okay, these are the AI note takers. So everything is being recorded, and they'll all get a copy of this, as I mentioned. And with us is Dr. Ken Lloyd from Southern California. So tell us how your new book is coming. Are you on schedule? What's the title?
Thank you very much. The new book is a new edition of a dummies book that I wrote 15 years ago, Performance Appraisals and Phrases for Dummies. And it is now done, a little ahead of schedule. So it's with the editing team over there. Oh. And at Wiley, they've been great to work with. And things are moving along for a December publication date. So thank you. Been a very enjoyable project.
Oh, that's great. Okay, and the cover design, is it different from in the past?
Yeah, for the new editions, they have a little bit of different wording. They have some different coloring, obviously staying with the yellow and black, but it looks like there's some red on the cover as well. It's a little bit more eye-catching. So that's nice too.
If you would like to display it, my screen share is open, so just let me know. Welcome, Andrew Elliman from the UK.
Hi, everyone.
I want to do intros here. Pardon me, I've got an itchy nose. Dr. Ken Lloyd just waved his hand. He's in LA. And also in the LA, Southern California region is my good friend, Christian Ter-Nedden. He's from the mobility industry, and I'm going to let him do a self-intro in just a sec. And also with us from Mexico City is Rigoberto Vasquez. And Andrew Elliman's in, are you in the office today?
No, I'm working from home today.
Okay, and how far out of London is your home?
If I drive into work, it can take me up to 2 hours. So it's quite a way.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I'm in San Diego. I'm looking out the window here across to Seaport Village, and we're covered by May gray. But here it is in late September, mid-September, and it's gray and humid. And who knows if the sun will ever shine again. But as you could see up here in the space station, now this is all figuratively in my mind. I'm in space, rolling around in my wheelchair here. I'm not in a wheelchair, but I'm a chair with wheels on it. So, Christian, tell us about what you're doing. You're between industry jobs now, and what did you do most recently?
Okay, so my name is Christian Ter-Nedden. I'm also, as Ed said, from the mobility industry, 20 years career. Believe I worked with Rigoberto a while back, and I've been with two different relocation management companies, currently between jobs, seriously thinking like Rigoberto about opening up my own shop. But what I'm doing right now is working on a AI project as a tester for questions that are that AI is being asked, and then the point is that AI fails to completely answer them. And the whole goal is to improve AI for the company that I'm doing this for. And yeah, I'm testing other people's questions. I'm also starting to write my own questions, which is a whole lot more difficult. And my field is going back to my original master's degree. It's linguistics and English literature. So I just wrote a task on Easter 1916 by Yeats.
Boy, that's interesting. I never
Yeah.
knew that about you. So
Yeah.
you're originally from outside of the Zurich area?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Grew up outside of the
and
Zurich
moved to
area.
Southern California 25 years ago?
Not 24. Yeah. 24 years ago.
24. Okay, great. Great. Well, I relocated myself and my business from Boston, about 3,000 miles northeast of where I'm sitting today. And that was in 1980, a long time ago. And at that time, I was publishing print magazines there for recruitment and area economic development and the relocation of talent. And that one was called California Bound, and it became an immediate hit, thank heavens, with the LA Chamber of Commerce and the LA Economic Development Corporation for the respective purposes. And thankfully, it was also well supported by the employee relocation business. And in particular, very large advertisers, including realtors such as Century 21, which was a franchise residential brokerage company. They're a major advertiser with me for years. Non-exclusive, but they dominated our magazines. Also, very, very large independent real estate brokerages in the LA region. Fred Sands, John Douglas, Coldwell Banker, as well as other franchise groups. It was a major success as a recruiting tool and relocation assistance tool. Companies and the LA Chamber and LA Economic Development Corp bought many copies all throughout the 80s. And we expanded the brand US bound into New York, Florida, Washington, Chicago, Texas, Seattle. That morphed into a conference business. The LA Chamber hosted my very first live event in 1984 in October in their lunchroom, which was in the basement of their office building in downtown LA. And they said, Ed, we've bought many thousands of copies of your publications. Now help us get members. So I said, okay, here's what you should do. Buy me lunch, but not me. I'll stage a conference in your basement and I'll invite my clients. And my clients will be from Chevron and Apple and Warner Brothers and Paramount Pictures and Ernst & Young and Bank of America and Boeing. And they all came because they were all users of the California Bound magazine. And that also meant the advertisers wanted to show up and network. And so we sold table space. This is conference number 1. First time, never did it before. So over 100 people came and it was a big success and the chamber got members. And that's how I began in the conference business. And since then, 30 years and more, of doing live meetings until COVID hit and wiped out that business. And so I learned how to look at this green light here and be relatively comfortable looking at it, and then opening up this channel to you and others across the world. And so here we are today We're going to be talking about communications, of course. This is what I do. Andrew Elliman was a winner of our award called Communicator of the Year Award, and we're going to get into that in just a second about why and what he's doing now. And I'll talk later about the Communicator Awards and how to win it. It's a PR device, of course, but it is true and honest. So this program is about nonverbal communication. So what does nonverbal means? It means that I'm not talking, but I combed my hair and I shaved, and the lighting is good and the sound is good, and not sitting up straight. I suppose I should, but I'm trying to be camera ready. And you do that by speaking clearly and slowly about things you know about. And be careful not to talk about things you don't know anything about, because the audience will see it and you'll be dead in the water forever because there's a record. So nonverbal means what's in the background. Are you clean cut? Are you presentable? Are you able to communicate a purpose and a vision just by being here? And would it be better to have no glasses? Of course, now you're blurry, or to have glasses. And so you have to be careful that the lighting doesn't hit these lenses and reflect back bright lights, because that's a turnoff to the audience. So nonverbal stuff. I want to ask Andy Elliman to introduce himself right now. He is global head in Europe of business development for a very large mobility based company called AGS worldwide in over 100 countries, right? Oh, you're on mute. It's hard to believe. Nonverbal means mute too. Andrew Elliman, welcome.
Hi, thanks, Ed. Yeah, that's correct. I'm head of European business development for the AGS group in over 100 countries ourselves. You can see on the dots behind us, you can see where we are. And actually today is a big day, because today we actually announced that we're now in Kuwait as well. So that's another area that we're in at the moment. So it's quite a big day for us. Apart from that, I do lots of talks with Ed, and it was great to get the Communicator of the Year award last year or the year before. I can't remember now how long ago it was. We've been doing a lot of these, haven't we, Ed? And apart from my day job, I'm also an adventurer. I go on very strange expeditions. I've done Everest twice. I got caught in the earthquake of 2015. I've got a world record for the highest dinner party in the world up on Everest. And at the age of 48, back in 2018 now, in 2018, my biggest fear was water. I couldn't swim. And so I announced to the world I was going to swim from England to France. And in 2021, I took on that mammoth challenge to swim across, getting stuck in a pandemic in the way as well. So yeah, I'm always doing something that's a little bit different. And I believe communication is definitely the way to make sure that everyone understands what you're doing, and how you communicate is really important, whatever you do, whether that's business, personal life, anything from that side.
So you do this on behalf of charity as well?
Yeah. Everything has to have a purpose. For me, it's a very selfish one. I want to conquer what I can and do it differently. Climbing a mountain is the most selfish thing you can do. As I found out, I nearly died in 2015 on the mountain, but you have to have a reason to be doing it. So if you're going to do that, try and put back. And I always try to put back locally where we are. So I did a lot of work with charities over in Nepal at the time when I did Everest. But also I pick a charity that's closer to home. So when I done my swim, I did one for a hospice where my mum passed away in. So we raised money for the hospice. I also then raised money again for the people of Nepal to help rebuild some of the buildings that they have over there that was caught in the earthquake. And also I tried to raise awareness for ocean plastic. So I joined a very good friend of mine, Simon Jordan, who's unfortunately no longer with us. He passed away, but he set up a really good initiative called 5 Things Clear. And it was all about pledging to pick up 5 bits of rubbish a day and just getting everyone to pick up 5 bits of rubbish. And you take a photo and used to send it off to his website, and he would put it up on the website. And he had thousands and thousands of people and children going to school doing this. And I just thought it was a fantastic thing. A very simple thing to be able to do is get everyone to pick up 5 bits of rubbish on their way to work, way to school, on the way home. It doesn't cost you anything. So sometimes you can make a difference without having to do too much. Sometimes that's what I say.
Okay, so now tell us about AGS. It's a holding company, and it holds a lot of things, holds a lot of cards in the mobility and transportation industry. But please go a little deeper and give us an overview of this humongous company.
Yeah, so AGS is family-run company. It's a French company. Started back in 1974. It's 50 years old this year, so it's a great story to tell at the moment. They're still expanding. Originally, when they started in France, they headed out into the African regions to begin with, when all the other moving companies were heading in different directions. And we have all 54 countries covered in Africa, which makes us quite unique. But that doesn't stop where we are. We're across Europe, we're across Middle East, Asia. We're in the Caribbean as well. We have the Caribbean 17 side of it. And we provide, started off as a moving company, then went into the relocation area. And we also provide immigration services. So it really has expanded over that time. We have storage facilities. We're asset heavy. So all of the dots that you see there on the map, we actually have warehouses and trucks and people in those locations. So that makes us very different to most models that are out there. On top of that, we still work with over 300-400 partners worldwide in locations where we're not. And we also have a records management side. So a lot of people don't know this, but we're one of the largest records management companies in the world as well. So a lot of fingers in different areas, and quite a success story, to be truthful.
So what about the fine arts and treasures?
Yeah, we do that as well. We have a heritage site that we help with, and that's another part of the business that we get involved with. It's some really good things that we do there as well.
Okay, that's great. Okay, now strange expeditions.
Yes, so on the side of my day job, I also am the owner of Stranger Expeditions and Stranger Business. So Stranger Expeditions, when I came back from doing my own expeditions, I realized just how hard it is to get awareness and get people to be involved. And where do you start? We can all say we're going to go climb Everest, but then you start finding out you can't get an insurer, you can't, you've got to have the right team to go with, etc. So I realized all the pitfalls that came with it. So I set up a company called Stranger Expeditions, where we're not your normal expedition company where you can go and buy off the shelf a trek to the normal locations that you will find anywhere in the world. And what we do, we have people that come to us and they say, look, I'm looking to do this. It's never been done before, and it might include a world record as such. And then we put it together for them, and we come back to them with a full plan, which could be a 5-year plan. It could be anything from putting them through training to be ready. And when we finally give them the cost, they normally say, well, we don't have that much to do it. So then what we do, we go and find sponsors to pay for that cost. So you just come with the idea, and then we will put it together and see how that fits and see who out there are looking to do that. So I put that together. And then after about a year or two into this, maybe the second year, we realized that there was a lot of companies asking for stranger business. So we set up stranger business on the side. So we go into companies and we give talks about motivational talks, but also team building, etc., within organizations. So that's becoming really attractive to companies at the moment.
So I've got a couple of things here, Andy, and if you could, I don't have the brain power to do it myself, so I invite you to display a slide or two that might help you. For instance, that slide that shows you on Everest with the backpack, and it lists the 7 major steps.
I did the 7 steps, which I give talks on the 7 steps to planning to climb Everest.
And how it relates to business management today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's very simple. The best thing is to make it simple. Don't make anything confusing. Like, so for me, the 7 steps were, if you imagine, step 1 was the vision. Right, I saw myself standing on Everest. So there's your vision, and step 7 is the summit. And everyone's got a summit in your organization, in your personal life, whatever your summit looks like. It doesn't have to be a mountain, it's there. But then you've got to have the support, and support come for me on the mountain came in various different versions. The support came from my family, the team, the support from work. And then there's obviously sponsors, the people that get involved that want to help you be able to carry out this. So that all falls into that area. You've got to then have the right team, right? You know, on Everest, you're there for 10 weeks. You don't want to be in the wrong tent with someone for 10 weeks, right? So you've got to make sure that team really, so you've got to build a correct team for that. The other things is planning the route. It's really important. You know, when I originally went for Everest, we were on the south, we were going to go the south side like everyone does. But because we couldn't get sponsorship at that time, we realized we needed to do something. So we came up with the idea of having a dinner party on the highest, flattest platform on Everest, which is 7,000 meters on Everest. But it was on the north side, on the Chinese side, which changed everything. In hindsight, that saved my life. You know, in 2015, when the earthquake hit, the mountain got in the way. So I was more fortunate than a lot of people on the mountain at the time. Then there's knowing your limits. You know, there's at some point you've got to know your limit. I found that out on Everest, and you know, you have to turn around, come home. You know, you have to turn around, come back down, or you know. So in an organization, you need to know your limits as well. You know, it's simple, isn't it? You as a global company, you may have a global vision, but guess what? Not everyone's going to buy into that vision. So you've got to cater for that somewhere along the line to bring that in. And yeah, so that's how it all came about. And I don't have that slide on me right now, Edwin, but I can always send it to you later or something.
Oh, well, no, I have it also, but I can't figure out how to launch it.
Share it. That's fine.
So I just open up the screen.
Feel free to share it anytime.
You know.
It's fine.
Okay, so now let me ask you about funding in sponsorships. Have you tapped into private equity?
No, not really. It's at the moment it's quite hard to get sponsorship for a lot of things. I've got a client at the moment that actually is going to go for a world record. I can't mention what it is on here because until he's done it really, but I'm sorting out some sponsorship with him, but it links to a few drinks companies, so it actually fits in quite well. So that is quite easy to get sponsorship. I was lucky because the industry just got behind me, and I had everything from AGS was one of my sponsors, but also I had the freight companies, I had the recruitment companies. Everyone got involved to help me with my sponsorship on Everest. Other people that come to us, they tend to have sponsorship lined up. A lot of time the companies, the big organizations they work for will actually sponsor them. But it is, you know, we're open to talks with anyone, you know.
Okay, so let's move on in just a minute. And if somebody here has a time constraint that they're up against, please just shoot me a message and I'll try to accommodate you. you're already planning the next event. So tell us about Mongolia. Where is Mongolia? Is it north of China?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
So the idea is, in my spare time, when I'm not doing all of these things, I ride a penny farthing bicycle, one of the old antique type style bicycles. And I actually am aiming to change it into a fat tire version. And I'm going to attempt to be the first person to cycle 100 miles across an ice lake in Mongolia.
Crazy.
So that's the idea. So we've got quite a few things in the planning at the moment. Something else we're going to do, which I can't say too much about, but it's going to be on the sea. So we're going to do something on the sea, which is quite interesting. So yeah, so we got quite a lot planned. And again, it's just as these all take place, it's fitting it all in. Obviously, I've got a day job, and I can't just take time off like I did on Everest.
Well, so you out there in the audience, you now know why and how I've anointed, given the award Communicator of the Year twice to Andrew Elliman, because I mean, it's inspirational and a good guy.
Thank you.
Ken, Lloyd, would you like to jump in here? You're on mute.
Okay, finally got off of mute. Again, Andy, listening to what you're saying, it's absolutely remarkable. And I think from the standpoint of helping people in organizations, the presentations that you make have to be so much more captivating because of the visual aspect of it. When you think about, well, have a vision, and your vision is standing on top of Mount Everest, a lot of people can relate that. All right, well, what really is my vision? What do I really see there?
Mm-hmm.
And then as you hike them through the various steps that you went through to get there, all the way from the planning on out, I think it's just a wonderful way for people to learn and to understand and develop and to take their own thoughts about creating goals to a much higher level. Again, that visual aspect is very compelling, very interesting.
Thank you.
Okay, Christian.
Another thing I wanted to pick up from what you said, and Andy, and yes, of course, it's very inspirational. It's, to me, unfathomable. But one thing that really resonated with me was preparation. And you're not just the sort of inspirational speaker who says, just dream big and it will all happen. You're actually making it very, very clear what's behind that. And when you said 5-year plan, I thought, yeah, if I were ever to do something like that, that would be me. I would want to have every single detail planned out. I would want my odds to be as good as possible to survive this. And the amount of preparation that must go into these trips must be amazing and very complex. And I'm sure if you make a small mistake in some area, it may cost you your life.
Yeah, and you're quite right. I mean, Everest, the first time we did do a 5-year plan, because there was so many elements to it. Was I had to first get my family to agree. If they'd said no, I've got 2 children, grown-up children. I got 2 grandchildren, and obviously my wife. And first thing I did was ask them and say, what do you think? If any one of them had said, I don't want you to do it, I wouldn't have done it, because I knew how selfish it is. I might not come back. The second part of that was, to climb Everest, it's very expensive. It's like $50,000, right? I didn't have $50,000, and even if I did, I couldn't take that out the family pot. So I had to get sponsors. So that was the other thing. And I always joke about it in my talks about how my wife said, "Well, make sure you're insured." And I joke about it, saying, "Oh, my wife was, making sure I'm insured," but she was completely right, because at that stage in my head, what can possibly go wrong? I've got the best team in the world. I'm climbing the best climbers. I'm the fittest I've ever been. When I took on the challenge, what could possibly go wrong? I did not think I'd get caught in an earthquake that could have wiped me out in seconds, and then my family are left with nothing. But I got the insurance a day before I went, I must say, because nobody wants to touch you on Everest. So I got my insurance. So there was 5 years of planning, but also when I say about keeping en route and keeping on track, it never goes in a straight line. Whenever you attempt something, you never go straight line. When I took on the English Channel to swim to France, you think you swim from like a place called Dover to Calais in France, and you think it's just a straight line that you swim. Well, actually, it's not like that at all, because the current will pull you in a snake version, right? And this is what happens, unfortunately, with the refugee boats coming across. They don't realize they're going to get caught in these horrendous currents to swim across. But even that, you know, in my mind, I was like, all I've got to do is learn to swim, train like mad, and then I'll swim the channel. And I convinced myself what could possibly go wrong. And then a pandemic hit, and it stopped me going to the swimming pool, right? So where I'd learned to swim, all of a sudden the doors are closed and you can't go. But luckily for me, I live near a river, and although it was probably not the best thing, I started swimming up and down the river 2 miles a day, right? So up and down the river in all weathers, right the way through winter. And there are always ways to get around these little bumps that get in the way. And this is what I try to say to people is like, you know, don't be put off at the first hurdle, because there's always a hurdle. And I would say probably 4 or 5 hurdles before you get to doing it. The day I was meant to, the year I was meant to swim it, I was going to do it in 2 years. And the problem there was we were still in the pandemic stages, where you could only be in a room with 4 people, and I needed a team of 9 on the boat. So I couldn't do it. So I had to postpone it a year, right? So you have to allow for those things to happen. So I think as long as you're clear on that, and you prep and you train and you are ready for the speed bumps that are going to come your way, you can conquer anything. It's just being ready to understand you need to adapt to the environment that you're in. That's how.
Rigo, what do you think of Andrew's doing all this stuff?
I'm so surprised about Andrew's background. I was watching your profile on LinkedIn, and it catch my attention to see how you are climbing the Everest there. It's not a common profile, because I come from my business profile and corporate profile for moving companies, and I expect someone wearing a suit. But that tells a lot about yourself, how you reflect, and how you mix and combine your personal, goals and your personal career. So, no, congrats, Andrew. I hope I can learn something about yourself and your habits in everyday routine. So perhaps I may replicate some of them. But congratulations, Andrew.
Why don't you exchange in the chat, email address, website, LinkedIn. That will be our ROI for everybody going forward. So thank you so much. So let's talk about nonverbal, or have we already? Andrew, what a lot what you've done is quite verbal and visual. Okay, so in the nonverbal, when you are teaching now, when you're in front of a class, or for instance, when we've done the HSBC live conferences, you're all proper and standing up straight, and you have everybody's attention. And so what are they seeing in your view? I'll tell you what I see, because I'm a visual guy and a communicator and a meeting planner for many years. So, it's my thing. It's like you in the moving business, it's your thing. So my business is how you are looking to the audience, or how they are seeing you. And what you come across is a very proper English businessman in that corporate setting inside HSBC, which we've done now 3 times, and number 4 time is coming up in the new year. And straight-laced. But what you're talking about is something really wild and crazy, and you don't wear a suit.
Yeah, I think it's different. I wouldn't say it's easy, but I'm like, I do motivational speaking, but I've never been taught how to do it. For me, I just tell a story. I just tell it what happened. This is what happened, you know. And the story sort of reaches out to people, and people start to relate in their own ways. And I've realized that, you know, and when I first set out to do this, the last thing I thought I would be doing is doing these motivational talks. But what I realize is, like, it relates to so many people in different ways, because like I said earlier, everyone's got their own summit. Like, and I've had some of the most incredible feedback. There was a lady, I gave a talk to the World Bank in Washington, DC, and there was probably about 30 people in the room. And this lovely lady came up to me afterwards, and she was crying, right? And she said, "Your story is so emotional. It's now made me think about writing my own book." And they asked me back a couple of years later, and there was a book that she'd wrote about growing up in Jamaica and how hard it was being a female growing up in Jamaica back in those days. And she wrote this lovely book, and she wrote inside it a message to me and said, like, you know, she was inspired to write a book on the back of what I had done and told in that room. Now, for me, that's gratitude of getting back, you know, it's touching someone in a room enough to understand that they can go and do this themselves. And I've had lots of things. I've had so many different things like that. That one stands out a lot. Unfortunately, she passed away not so long ago, but it's such a lovely thing that people can take away and use in their own. But yeah, I walk in a suit. I don't look like I should be able to climb. I'm quite a large guy. But I've run marathons. I've run ultra marathons. I've done my swimming challenges, as you know. Yeah, I don't look like your typical person, and I think that's what attracts people, is that I am an ordinary guy underneath it all that just leads an extraordinary adventure.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Christian.
So Andrew, I think in a way you're selling yourself short here, because you just said I'm just telling my story, and yes, you are. That's what you're saying, but you're also you have a very calm and even voice. You don't fidget. You don't move around your chair. Clearly, you know how to speak in front of an audience. So I think it's not just what you're saying, but also how you're presenting it. Because if you were talking about Everest and you did it like that,
Yeah,
I don't think it would have the same effect.
Yeah. Maybe that's true. I mean, there is my background as well. I am in business development, so maybe that comes into it, because I'm used to sitting in front of corporates to talk about global mobility services. So there is that part of it. I am comfortable talking about it because you can't trip up a story, if that makes sense. You know,
Yep.
I'm relaying the story. I'm actually I'm nearly finished. I've actually been writing a book about the whole experience, and I'm going to release it next year, hopefully on the 25th of April next year, as that will be 10 years to the day that I was caught in the earthquake. So I think it's time to tell my story. I've seen lots of books out about it, what happened, and now it's to tell my side of the story and what happened through that whole journey, because it was a crazy journey. It was, you know, we didn't do it the usual way. We did it completely different. We flew, because we were going in via China. We actually flew into Beijing, spent a couple of days in Beijing, and then we caught a train across to Lhasa, and then we drove from Lhasa up into the Everest base camp from China, from the Tibetan side. And that was a journey on its own. It opened my eyes to so many things in that journey. So, you know, yeah, and we made, you know, mistakes along the way. You know, we had some scary moments. It'll all be in the book. You can read it all in the book. But but you know, it's different cultures, how people see you, how you need to be respectful of those people, and yeah, I am comfortable talking. I talk too much sometimes, I think.
What's the book title?
Oh, haven't got the title yet. I wrote the book. I've been trying to write this book for the last probably 8 years, I would say. And I ripped up the first version and threw it away. I didn't like it. And then I couldn't work out how to put the book across. And then I realized, well, a friend of mine said to me, don't write the book for anyone else, just write it for you. Right. And if you don't ever sell a copy, at least you wrote it for you and you know you've got your book. So I've really enjoyed doing it because the way hopefully it'll read well to everyone else, but I've wrote it for me. So if someone else gets something from it, it's great. There's lots of examples, there's lots of things in the book that people can take away, but I've wrote the book for me. So when you take that approach, it's back to storytelling. It's telling what happened, you know. So yeah, well, let's see. I mean, hopefully people will be interested in reading it afterwards.
Ken, you've written books?
It sounds like a wonderful topic to write about. I'm thinking of a title. I would call it "To Sum It, One Word Up." To sum it up. So you're summarizing what happened. It's got
Clever.
"Sum It" in the title.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say I give talks, and I call the talks resilience, because it used to be the Everest 5-year story, but I call it resilience now because it's how you carry on.
Absolutely. And it's so funny, we were all just talking about resilience with psychological capital, as resilience being one of the key components of that. I think the aspect of storytelling is so important in communication and in the persuasive process. But it's people like hearing stories. We grew up hearing stories. If someone says to you, let me tell you a story about that, you go, oh, yeah, now tell me, here, I want to hear it. What is it? Stories, you know, they're visual, they're memorable, they're compelling. It's a much better way to get points across as opposed to simply providing data or relating a set of steps that occurred. In a story, it's a whole different way to present it, and it makes the presentation much more interesting. And as I said, memorable. People will take that with them and they'll think back. They'll remember that story years later. And you've related the incident with the woman who came to you, but those stories made a life-changing impact on her, and it does similar things for others. So yeah, storytelling, if you're good at it, and as Christian pointed out, your style, your approach, your quote body language projects very well that this is not some flip light thing. Yeah, there was this mountain and we climbed it. It was amazing. None of that stuff at all. And I think that makes the stories that you do tell that much more profound and frankly believable.
So, Andy, are you going to be in Washington for the ERC in October?
I'm not. No. Unfortunately, the company put a ban on travel for the moment. So for this year, which like most companies have at the moment. So no, unfortunately, I won't be in the US this year.
Okay, just wanted to know. So I thank you all for being on this program. Nonverbal is the promoted theme. Rigo, what do you think of that title, nonverbal communicating, and how important it is to being authentic or being seen as trustworthy?
Yeah, well, I think it reflects a lot. You were asking me about saying hola at the beginning of the conversation. And I was just remembering that for learning a second language, there's a part about learning the culture of the language, and that represents a lot. And for me, it has been, at least for learning English, very, very paramount to learn the culture of the language. And I just remember a quote that I saw like 10 years ago, that it was saying that learning a language without culture is like learning to drive in a parking lot, where at the end you know. So that's part of the communication, the style, the way you communicate. I think the sound and many things. So especially nowadays, where we are currently having this new way of communicating with the in artificial intelligence. So yeah, I think it's, part of what we are and how we communicate.
Interesting. So, Christian, you just heard Rigo talk about knowing the culture and the role of language and the role of culture together. And that is your specialty now, isn't it? Linguistics.
Yeah, that is. I think it has a lot to do with my own life story and the fact that I moved into a different culture, related but different, when I was 9 years old, moving from Germany to Switzerland. I was just thinking when you said 1988, that's when I moved from Germany to Switzerland, but I was 9. And you learn in another culture, you learn to pick up on nuances, you learn to pick up on differences. And when you have to learn another language, which I did with Swiss German, which I'd spoken preschool, but then forgot about, you really have to be very aware of the context, which is what Rigoberto was talking about. The parking lot is using a language without any context, right? Because you're not on the street and there's no other people that are doing irrational things to your car. So it's really about these nuances, and that then I believe helped propel me into first linguistics and literature, and then after that, global mobility.
I am going to show you this. I don't know if it'll come across well on this. I'm going to have to learn how to do the screen share. So here I'm holding a magazine, the print magazine. It says San Diego bound, and it has 130 pages in it and advertising. I know you can't see it too well here. I'm sorry. But I wanted to talk about that as we come to a close here, of how doing that. And I relocated from Boston to LA, and as I said, in 1980, and I was 34, almost 35 years old at the time. And so it's a long time ago. And how all that has transformed into this thing today, at this moment. There's a story there too, more than one story, and not all of it positive. But here I am today, and here you are today, Andy, having gone through all that, and first of all, having the guts to do it. And so how much, I'm going to be speaking out of tune here, so quotes, how much of that is craziness? Just, you're not insane, you're brilliant because you organized this whole thing and then you lived it, and now you get to talk about it. And not to put a shine on it, but you have it within your gut, with a total understanding of what you've done and what the story should be.
Well, I always say my insanity keeps me sane. Because we all have an outlet. Everyone has an outlet. For me, I just like doing, I like doing something that's a little bit different. I take risks to a degree, but there is a limit still for that. I just love the fact that, if it hasn't been done before, I want to know why. And there was a great quote many years ago about, it's only impossible until it's made possible. I forget who said it, but it's a great quote. And I think that's why I like doing it. Crazy, yes, probably. Bonkers, yes. But yeah, I love a challenge.
Good for you. Yes, Christian.
I thought that was a great cultural moment just now, Andrew, this very English understatement. I like to do things that are a little bit different. And you could have said, I actually love to knit. I knit hats all the time.
It's crazy, isn't it? And the other thing, I always get people say, you never jump about and say, oh, you're doing this, like it's like until I ask. Once they ask, they've had it because I don't shut up. But like I say, I do it for me. So it's like, yeah, I will help raise money along the way for different charities and hopefully make a difference to a few different people that come on the journey with me. But don't get me wrong, I'm doing this all for me. Like once you realize you're doing it for yourself, like everything else, it doesn't matter because they're gonna understand it. You know, I'm just very lucky to have a family that understand that. You know, my wife is a godsend. You know, she's, you know, she says to me like, you know, you put me through hell over the years, but she knows what I'm like. You know, so I'm very lucky to have that relationship.
Thank you for being my guest today on the show, and you'll all get a copy of this and all the other tributaries coming from this. And please come back. Thank you.
Always.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Nice to meet you.
Bye. Nice to meet
Thank
you.
Same to you. Bye-bye all.
Bye.
Thank you.